SportsGrid's coverage of the divisional round continues live here on a Sunday morning. Kevin Walsh, Donnie Rightside, and Joe Lisi with you here on Pro Football Today. Now joined by Warren Sharp. And Warren, we have to get straight to the action here. The divisional playoffs continue in Detroit with the Lions laying 6.5, total creeping up at 49.5 now. What are you looking for in this game tonight?
Well, I know you guys are looking for points. I heard that as you guys have been talking in the last couple segments. And look, the bottom line for me is I think that both of these teams are going to have to end up passing the football. I do believe that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not going to have a lot of success running the football. We're going to see less of Rachaad White unless they come out here and for some reason go against what they did in last week's game, which I thought was a very intelligent strategy, which was come out and throw the ball a little bit more because they were having so much success. Get Baker Mayfield ahead of the six a little bit. That's what they need to do here as well. And for that reason, I took some Rachaad White under his rushing attempts earlier on in the week at 16.5. I think that number is down to 15.5, though honestly, I haven't checked in a few days. But I liked him to go under that because I simply believe you are not going to have a lot of success running the football against this Detroit Lions offense. You're going to need to be throwing it. And then you have the likely game state, which is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the underdog. Now, I know the books are going to need the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to have a performance here. They can't have them not show up. They're getting a lot of money on the Detroit Lions, and so they're going to need something out of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's going to have to come, though, through the arm of Baker Mayfield, and so to kind of stack on top of the Rachaad White prop, I like the Baker Mayfield passing yards over. I think Baker Mayfield is going to be going over his passing yards. There's a lot of weapons that they can attack, and that's the weakness of this Detroit Lions secondary. So I expect them to be throwing the ball early and often and with relative success, potentially some deeper targets down the field to both Chris Godwin and Mike Evans.
Let's take a look at game number 2 today. Many people think this is going to be the game of the weekend. It's Patrick Mahomes going up against Josh Allen in Buffalo. Cooler temperatures, light winds here as we welcome in the radio audience. You're watching and listening live here to Pro Football Today right here on Sirius XM channel 159. Warren, give me a play out for this game here. 45.5 is a total. Are we getting offenses or much more measured offenses in this game?
I think more measured offenses, although this game, like any of these in this series, could easily spiral out of control if one of the teams gets a lead, especially if that lead is by more than one score through happenstance, a return touchdown, a turnover, something along those lines. And then the other team in trail mode needs to catch up and make up more ground than just one score can do. Like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen easily could start going alien mode and throwing the ball all over the place. And these offenses could be going very aggressive. But the normal game state, in my opinion, would be a tighter game, closely contested game. And I actually don't have an opinion on the side or the total. But what I do believe is that we're going to see Stephon Diggs struggle a little bit here under the coverage of L'Jarius Sneed and under the eye of Sean Hockley, the referee, who does not call a lot of defensive pass interference, who does not call a lot of illegal contact. And that's been one of the things that's plagued L'Jarius Sneed. He's one of the best cover corners in the NFL, but he also ranks number 3 in the most penalty yards that are assessed against him. I believe that Sneed is going to be able to utilize the fact that refs tend to swallow their whistles at this stage in the playoffs, in addition to the fact that Sean Hockley basically instructs his crew, I don't like calling these types of penalties very frequently. As a result, we're going to see a lot of closer coverage. Diggs is already dealing with a little bit of an injury, and he hasn't really been a focal point of this offense very often. So I don't think Diggs is going to have a lot of success here. That's why, unless this game state spirals out of control, as I mentioned before, and the Bills are trailing by a ton, I like Diggs to go under his receiving yards total. So that's one of the favorite looks that I have in this one.
Warren, want to stay with that game. If you believe Diggs doesn't have a huge performance, what about the running backs in this game? Like James Cook for Buffalo had 83 receiving yards in terms of the first meeting. And can we get Pacheco out in regards to the receiving game as well?
Well, as it relates to James Cook, yes, I think that he needs to be a focal point of this offense. The weakness of the Kansas City Chiefs, although they looked pretty good last game out against the Miami Dolphins, is against the run. They're stronger against the pass, weaker against the run. You have to come out here if you're Buffalo, especially playing at home, and get some success on the ground so that everything does not fall onto Josh Allen's shoulders. Because surely enough, Josh Allen's going to have a fair amount of rushing attempts. But the one thing that I'm concerned about with his running ability is the fact that defensively, this Kansas City Chiefs defense back in 2020, 2021, they were allowing those gashing runs. They were allowing big yardage from Josh Allen as well. Since then, though Josh has had a lot of rushing attempts, they've really bottled up and tried to limit his yardage. And so if you look at how they've done compared to most teams, they're one of the better teams at limiting the actual yards that Josh Allen gets. So we're going to need a lot of effort from James Cook and potentially out of the backfield as well. I don't mind at all look to his rush plus receiving yards over the total, because he's going to have to be a focal point given the injuries that the Bills wide receivers have in this game. I also like in that one, Dalton Kincaid. I think he's going to have over his receptions, but I don't really love his yardage total against this too high shell that the Kansas City Chiefs run frequently. Josh Allen targets his tight end, specifically Kincaid, frequently, but not very deep down the field. So you could have a game where he's got, 7, 8 targets, but he's catching like 6 or 7 of those because these targets are very close to the line of scrimmage, but they don't have a lot of upside after them. He's getting tackled short. They're not deep targets down the field. On the other side, Pacheco is going to need to be involved a little bit here for the Kansas City Chiefs. I found it interesting. I went back and rewatched over the past couple of days. The last 3 games from the Kansas City Chiefs, a lot of get to the line of scrimmage super quickly, and then they wait and they monitor. They call these plays, they get them in very quickly, but they're not actually going super fast. They're just getting there quickly. But it does create the opportunity for Patrick Mahomes to audible and to move guys around and to get some matchups that he likes at the line of scrimmage, and potentially that could be Pacheco out of the backfield.
Warren, quickly, anything yesterday from the Ravens or the Niners that you took away you'll carry into Conference Championship Sunday?
I thought the Ravens came out and played very conservatively offensively. They ultimately won by a large margin, but that was because of their defense, not necessarily their offense. So they're going to have to step it up with their strategy and their play calling here in this AFC Championship game, where I do worry about their ability to maintain home court advantage there. And the 49ers, obviously, they came out and they got relatively lucky. They just got to pray that there's no rain in the forecast next week. I was really shocked at how Purdy looked when it was raining. Even some of the slight drizzle, I mean, the wiping the handoff mid snap there was pretty silly. I can't recall seeing that before, but it looks like the early forecast for the championship Sunday is dry. So that's some good news if you're a 49ers backer for the futures.
No doubt about it. Warren, we appreciate it as always. Best of luck to you on this Sunday slate. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, guys. Good luck today.
All right, awesome stuff as always there from Warren Sharp. You can find him on Twitter at SharpFootball. Coming up next year, we dive into the injuries and fallout from yesterday, as well as what is on the line today here and where the advantages are between the Lions and the Bucs and the Bills and the Chiefs. It's SportsGrid's Pro Football Today. We'll be back here.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices. We're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
This is one of the hardest jobs in all of football. You are replacing Bear Bryant. You are replacing Nick Saban. You are replacing guys who won national championships, and they still wanted them out. They still wanted them gone.
Mike Shula.
It was a disaster. Dubos was a disaster.
Gene Stallings.
That's what I mean. They ran him out. He won a national championship, and they ran Gene Stallings out.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Good move by the Clippers, and obviously, folks, they have Tyronn Lue, who I think is one of the best coaches in the league. And I'll say this right now, folks, the way they're playing, I know Minnesota's in first. I know Oklahoma City's been great. I know Denver's been fantastic. But the team I'm thinking right now that could actually come out of the West, if they stay healthy and he keeps playing like that, it's Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Last year, the Purdue Boilermakers upset by the 16 seed Fairleigh Dickinson. Is history going to repeat itself?
Purdue is capable of winning 6 games in the NCAA tournament, but the fact is, until Purdue proves that it's capable of not just advancing, but advancing far in the bracket in March, this is going to be the storyline. And I've said that to you throughout the offseason.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
I am not a Cowboys fan. I did not have a Cowboys ticket on this game. I bet the over, but I'm frustrated watching this game. I'm frustrated seeing the Dallas Cowboys think that this is their optimal game plan.
In-game live, prime time. Only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live on SportsGrid Pro Football today, we now are joined by the Pro Football Doc, Dr. David Chow, and the folks over at SixScore.com have been helping us all year long with the injury analysis that we need. Doc, we appreciate you stopping by here on a Sunday morning.
Yeah, fun. Two more games today. Fun weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to start with the 2 games yesterday, though. Christian McCaffrey was featured on the sideline. The guy was working on the thigh. Burkhardt accidentally called it a calf, which was a weird moment. Then he had the gun going there. What did you that was kind of normal for CMC and everything that was going on with him on the sideline for that game?
You know, I think it's normal for guys. It's a game of football, right? And thigh contusion, tightness, he's working it out. And if not for the playoff atmosphere, if not for CMC, the star player, and if not for the fact he was coming off a calf injury, I don't think the TV broadcast would have even zoomed in on it. So I sort of shrugged with that. And he got almost 100 yards, and he did what he was supposed to.
Sure did.
Do. Yes.
Yeah, he absolutely did. Doc, as far as Deebo Samuel goes, again, for me, knowing nothing, they kept showing the replay of him being hit in the head, and then the next thing you know, they go, oh, yeah, his shoulder is potentially the injury that's causing him to be out. What is your early read on Deebo Samuel now with the Niners still having some football to play?
Well, we're still doing some research on that. The good news is the video that we've seen so far, including the play where he got hit in the head, he didn't really get hit much in the shoulder. There's some hinting that it's similar to the earlier season injury with the scapula fracture, the shoulder blade fracture, which cost him 2 weeks. So there is some concern. But right now, we don't see video of there being a scapula fracture. In fact, based on video, I thought that he would return for the second half of the game. So I think we have to wait some additional testing. I'm not trying to come up with an opinion when I don't see something, but maybe that's good news. I don't see a scapular fracture there.
All right, so we'll keep tabs on that. I want to go to the Ravens quickly, Doc, here. Yesterday had an 85 team score on SixScore.com, which, again, in the green, that's my personal bar. I want to see green on SixScore.com, but I'd imagine there's a chance for this number to rise heading into the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, part of that big number was obviously Marlon Humphrey, right? And it will rise for sure because Kyle Hamilton's number is going to rise. He played well. I didn't see any effects of his knee, right? And the D-line played well. And it's hard to play well when you're Houston when you have like 10 penalties or whatever it was, and you're behind the sticks all the time. But give the Ravens credit; they have played well, and I think for sure their defensive score will rise.
Doc, let's take a look there at Tampa Bay and Detroit, the 3 o'clock Eastern game coming into this. We take a look at the offense here for Detroit, and specifically with Sam Laporta. We thought he might have been down for the season just a few weeks ago, only to play last week and score a red zone touchdown. Do we have a better update on Laporta this week? Does it mean more reps here? Should he be getting more healthy? What can we expect out of him today?
Oh, I think there's no question he's going to be a week healthier, which is great. But I don't think he's Sam Laporta yet. I don't think he's downfield. I don't think he's anything close to 100% yet. But he gets a lot of attention because he made it back to play, and kudos to him. And he scored a touchdown, a 1-yard touchdown. But still, it's a touchdown. 3 catches, 14 yards last week. I don't see any big explosive plays out of him, but he's a great target and a great weapon, and he will be 1 week healthier. Of course, no Khalif Raymond is potentially the other side of the equation for Detroit for wide receivers, but Jameson Williams should be a week healthier from his high ankle sprain.
Doc, last week we were also questioning here how healthy Baker Mayfield would be for the Monday Night Football game against the Philadelphia Eagles. He looked great last week. Short work week for him coming into this one. Any lingering issues possibly here for Baker Mayfield? Is he clear-cut, ready to go?
Now, at Sports Injury Central, we weren't really worried about last week, which makes us less worried about this week in terms of Baker Mayfield, at least in terms of his health.
Doc, we'll turn our attention to the ballgame in Orchard Park, Kansas City, Buffalo. Buffalo has multiple injuries as it relates to the defensive side of the ball. What's the latest in regards to the Buffalo Bills heading into this matchup?
Well, it's been a roller coaster ride for Buffalo on defense. Beginning of the year, they were very injured. Then they got healthier, and it kind of coincided with their late season run. And now they have a string of injuries now. The 2 areas to watch are linebacker and at the DBs. At linebacker, I don't believe Terrell Bernard is going to play. They're already missing Matt Milano. Balen Spector, one of the backups, is also out. At DB, obviously, Tre'Davious White's been out the whole season. Rasul Douglas may indeed come back this week. We'll see how effective he can be. But Christian Benford's out. At least Teron Johnson is clearing concussion protocol. And backup safety Taylor Rapp is out with a calf. So there's a slew of injuries. Look, as we get deeper into the playoffs, it self-selects out the healthier teams. But Buffalo's defense is among the most injured sides this weekend. And, of course, we all know already there's no Gabe Davis on the offensive side of the ball either.
If they win this ball game today, is Gabe Davis like 50-50 next week against Baltimore, or do you see that he's possibly a go next week?
I think he's possibly a go next week, but maybe not at the explosive Gabe Davis. But the good note for Buffalo is that Stephon Diggs' foot, I don't think is a big deal. And as long as you have Josh Allen, I guess you have a chance.
I think that is a good way to put it. Doc, we appreciate it. As always, that is the Pro Football Doc, Dr. David Chow, with us here on SportsGrid. Again, go to sixscore.com and get all the injury analysis and information that you need. Doc, we appreciate it as always.
Thank you.
All right, great stuff there, from Doc. And something that, really resonates with me when we have these conversations with Doc, it adds to the worry that this Bills defense is this banged up heading into a game like this.
Oh, and they're going to have to stop the run, right? We talked about it in terms of how physical Kansas City ran the football against Miami last week. If they do get the run game going, that'll open up the play-action passing attack, and you do not want to give Patrick Mahomes time, right? You want to force him into predictable long third downs. You want to get the crowd involved. And, again, you want to put the pressure on Kansas City's offense. If they can control the line of scrimmage, Donnie, could be lights out for the Bills today.
It's interesting, too, because when we bring Doc on each week, it's nice to always have that injury perspective because really sometimes it does come down to who's just healthy at the right time of the season. Yeah. We talk about that in just about every single sport. If you say, hey, the Buffalo Bills defense that was supposed to line up in early September will be there today, we might be thinking completely different about this game. But obviously sometimes it's a war of attrition to try to find it out. And certainly we saw the Miami Dolphins ran out of gas, not because they're not good at football team, they just have enough bodies on defense.
Yeah, that, again, is the concern. But I'll tell you guys, another reason I look towards this total, if the Chiefs are going to get to 24, 27, I think Buffalo's going to be able to be there. You know, the history suggests this is going to be a close game. We'll see if they're able to figure that out. I still just feel like it has to be Buffalo.
Yeah, I like Buffalo as well. I think even in that type of situation, playing in your house, and we know how dominant Buffalo's been. We didn't really bring that up as well, is that they lost one home game. You know, I mean, they have been, right? Or
who did they lose to at home? Denver?
Yes.
They did lose to Denver.
Denver.
Yeah.
Denver. So that is why I lean to the Buffalo Bills, because if this game does go off the rails like you believe, you hope that the last man standing is Josh Allen and your offense, right? I mean, you can't ask for anything else heading into this matchup. Pat Mahomes on the road, first road start in terms of the playoffs. You have everything going for you. You're a little bit banged up on defense. That's why you got to take shots.
We're not going to have that big Gabe Davis game here. Somebody else going to have to step up. Maybe it's that secondary options in Shakir, but I'm looking at Stephon Diggs. The doc says he's good to go. Come on now. Fire away.
So you want to talk about come on now, Sunday morning crunch?
Whoa.
A full
Extended?
breakdown and
Really?
extended
Extended
you know what
version.
that means.
Extra
Extra
unrated
extra
DVD
spread.
edition. Yes.
And I might work in a Real Madrid pick. We'll see. We'll be right back here, Pro Football Today.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices. We're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
third.
don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby. The money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
This is one of the hardest jobs in all of football. You are replacing Bear Bryant. You are replacing Nick Saban. You are replacing guys who won national championships, and they still wanted him out. They still wanted him gone.
Mike Shula,
Mike Shula was a disaster. Dubos was a disaster.
Gene Stallings.
That's what I mean. They ran him out. He won a national championship, and they ran Gene Stallings out.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Good move by the Clippers, and obviously, folks, they have Tyronn Lue, who I think is one of the best coaches in the league. And I'll say this right now, folks, the way they're playing, I know Minnesota's in first. I know Oklahoma City's been great. I know Denver's been fantastic. But the team I'm thinking right now that could actually come out of the West, if they stay healthy, and he keeps playing like that, it's Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Last year, the Purdue Boilermakers upset by the 16 seed Fairleigh Dickinson. Is history going to repeat itself?
Purdue is capable of winning 6 games in the NCAA tournament, but the fact is, until Purdue proves that it's capable of not just advancing, but advancing far in the bracket in March, this is going to be the storyline, and I've said that to you throughout the offseason.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
I am not a Cowboys fan. I did not have a Cowboys ticket on this game. I bet the over, but I'm frustrated watching this game. I'm frustrated seeing the Dallas Cowboys think that this is their optimal game plan.
In-game live, prime time. Only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live on SportsGrid. Donnie right side, Joe Lisi, Kevin Walsh. Sunday Morning Crunch on a Sunday. Usually that means we have a little ditty. Oh, we sure do. Sunday Morning Crunch time. Go ahead. Now, where do we begin? Hey, oh, look at him starving.
That's on.
Nice brunch.
Having a pot roast today.
How about
Pot roast.
How about a cheese board?
Yeah,
See, he
always
likes to make fun of me a lot.
Oh,
you
can
know
I look
that?
on? Sometimes
The guy that
he's
doesn't
doing
eat.
too much.
Right.
So other times it's more than justified.
Right.
Yeah.
Like when you're like, oh, can we get some hummus here? It's
Yeah.
like kick this
Correct.
guy out.
Now, what did you? Now, see, I went home yesterday. Cheesesteak, fries, add a little funnel fries as well,
Breakfast of champions, some might say.
and a Mr. Good bar.
No, and a
Yeah.
Mr. Good
It's like
bar?
French fries that are like a funnel cake.
Ooh.
Tremendous.
No, I had a double burger with cheddar cheese and avocado slices on the
I mean,
side.
where are you from? San Diego? What is this?
Yeah. What
with
did
ginger tea
the
and a cup of coffee. With almond.
what do we have? We had some sweet bread in the house.
Sweet
Okay.
bread. Banana bread, you
Keep
might
the
be
banana
able to
bread's
get.
good, yeah.
Banana bread.
And then late night, actually used the gift card that we were given from some McDonald's, some chicken nuggets and fries.
I
beat
thought you were
that.
going to tell me you were trying to score a banana bread at like 10 o'clock at night. Well,
what world is he
Believe
in?
it or not, I'm not trying to score banana bread at 10 o'clock at night.
What were you doing out last night, Joe? Man, banana bread. Couldn't find any.
There was a late night cake run the other night, though.
Was there?
Wow.
Had a filet
Where was
mignon.
it? Get that,
Stop
though.
and shop.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
What was
Just
the
a regular sheet cake?
What?
Just,
it was like a chocolate brownie cake.
Yeah.
now, here, did you ever do this? Like, 'cause I like Carvel ice cream cake.
Oh, my
You buy the ice cream cake, and it's not your birthday. You still, like, just have it for, like, a Sunday night. Done it many times.
No,
Back in
but
the
I
day.
respect it. Back when you used
Better
to
preface that.
treat
Yeah?
Yeah,
yourself.
exactly.
Don't worry, we're going to get Donnie back one day. He'll be back. Be back home. You were eating carbs left, right, and center during Bucks Eagles.
Whoa.
Was I?
Remember?
What, Bucksy?
Yeah, we were trying to get you to take bites of
I had
pizza.
I,
Good
the
advice.
right, because the only thing open was a pizzeria around
Never disrespect the pizzeria.
25 miles from the studio.
Donnie was ordering all these buffalo chickens. It was great. All right, let's break into your Sunday morning crunch.
I went with secondary receivers. So
Oh, okay. First time all year.
you don't like that, right? He's making fun of me right
I got
out of
beat. The
game.
secondary market beat my head in yesterday. So go ahead.
Smashed you over the
Yeah.
face with a mallet.
See, now I don't know Donnie's crunch. I hope it's nothing but stars. He should get this.
All right, so Sunday Morning Crunch, we'll talk about the first game, Detroit and Tampa Bay. We talked about Detroit's secondary giving up 258 passing yards per game. Tampa Bay as well, giving up 248 passing yards per game. I expect both quarterbacks to eat. I know you could look on the Detroit side for St. Brown. I'm going Jamison Williams. We heard Doc say that he's healthier another week in. 33.5 is his number. I think altered him up, guys, to 50-plus today. I think he could be the secondary option. Speedster steps up, lanky body. Keep an eye out for Jamison Williams today. In terms of Kansas City and Buffalo, I talked about Mecole Hardman for basically the first hour. 17.5 is his number. He's 8-1 for an anytime touchdown. He's got the quarterback-wide receiver relationship down with Mahomes. In this type of situation on the road, he goes to veteran players. Even though Rice has stepped up in regards to that offense and Kelsey as well, Mecole Hardman could be a sneaky look at over the 17.5 in terms of that. And then in the same ball game, James Cook through the air, 18.5 is his receiving number. We talked about it, 80-plus yards in terms of the first meeting. Checkdowns, we saw Devin Singletary in the same type of situation break out. James Cook is a versatile player. Got to get him out in space, guys.
Look, and I like where you go on that. Yesterday it hurt me a little bit going to those markets, but they make some sense because you don't need a lot. It's one of those where you say Jamison Williams over 33.5, and by the end of the first quarter, you got 19 yards. Like, great, let's just let this play out the rest of the way as it goes. And you're right about Hardman. Everybody's interchangeable there. It's almost like who has the hot hand or who's just wide open, and it could be just a design play call that gets you open for those situations. So I'm digging it. I'm digging Lisa's play.
You like Cook? I know you're on Cook in terms of the rushing today, right?
Who, James Cook?
Yeah.
I didn't bet him, but I mean, it's going to be great when he wins Super Bowl MVP.
We're
Yes.
back to this again.
Yep.
Well,
Got a good
break
price.
out the spread. I
Yeah.
can't anymore.
I am just slightly curious what the conversation would have been. I like to do this in the postseason
Sure.
of game MVP,
Right.
right? Like Lamar had 4 total touchdowns, he would have won it, right? What about of Dre Greenlaw versus McCaffrey from yesterday's game? Like, because CMC wasn't like his usual excellent self. I didn't find in the game.
He had a few tutties, close to 100 on the ground, salted it away, final touchdown.
He had about 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. Dre Greenlaw led the team in tackles and had 2 picks.
Yeah, it's not
the game
Dre Greenlaw.
Yeah, come on. I don't get the benefit of the doubt. Some of the writers might not even know who Greenlaw is.
Well, how about the idea that, remember when they started saying this, that the vote has to be in?
Yes, before the 2-minute drill. It was, I guess, the L.A. Super Bowl we were talking about.
Yes.
The funny part of that was like, who's going to throw? Somebody might have the huge touchdown. I was like, hey, who cares? We're just going to give it to somebody else.
Which, by the way, at the 2-minute warning, the Packers were winning the football game. Like, Jordan Love would have won MVP. That can't be true. I still refuse to believe that is true. Go ahead, DRS. Go ahead.
All right, let's take a look. Sunday Morning Crunch, and Kevin hit the nail on the head yesterday. Now, I did have my Sunday Morning Crunch. I lost 2 secondary market options, which I love. They weren't even just flyers. Like, they were well thought out. I think I'm going to buy low scenario. And the only one that hit was who? George Kittle over 50.5. Of course. Why? Big stars rise up in big game situations, people. If you're taking a look at the hottest wide receiver in the NFL, that's not Stephon Diggs, but we're going there anyway at over 59.5 yards. I didn't like Stephon Diggs to start the week this week, so I said to myself, how are we going to win this football game before the Buffalo Bills? Number one, I think Josh Allen has to have a big day, whether it's on his legs or if it's through the air. But if you're looking to move the football here, no Gabe Davis. Are we really going to say our passing game is going to rely on our 2 tight ends over the middle to get 5- and 6-yard chunks? No. Sooner than later, Stephon Diggs is going to have to show up. I think the play action, as Joe would love, will be available today. I'm looking for big plays out of Diggs, and this is a buy low spot. 59.5 for Stephon Diggs in a playoff game here? Stop the madness. I got to take that. Other side, how about this? Travis Kelce over 60.5 receiving yards. You saw last week, it was a 10 attempt, not 10 attempts.
7 receptions, 72 yards.
But 10 targets. So targets is what I'm looking for here. We take a look here at the Buffalo Bills. I told you all day long, this team is so banged up at the linebacker position, you're putting guys in that aren't used to covering these type of elite athletes here. And also, in colder conditions and a little bit windier conditions, which you're going to get in Buffalo, you saw Travis Kelce shine last week. I do think he actually has a legitimate chance for a touchdown as well as Stephon Diggs. Now let's go to Jared Goff, maybe my favorite play of the week here. Zeroed on this one earlier in the week. I said to myself, if we're going to get points in the Dome, Jared Goff is going to have to beat the blitz, and I think he will do that. He's got weapons all over the field. Just keep them outside of the 3 to 4 yard line, which David Montgomery will eat into my profits here. Jared Goff over 1.5 touchdown passes. I love it. It's a little bit expensive at minus 146, but I think it makes a lot of sense.
I like that. I think both quarterbacks are going to throw it. Big 12 shootout here. I'm telling you.
I actually do really
65-50
appreciate Diggs play, though.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely usually would anticipate he's been terrible, get him away from me.
Yeah.
Usually, so I agree. It is a nice buy low spot on Stephon Diggs. And Kansas City's been very good against number 1 wide receivers this season, but that is not a number 1 wide receiver price in a
like
game that Gabe
88.5.
Davis isn't playing
correct.
in. So I think it makes all the sense in the world. For me today, I've talked about some of these already, but Mike Evans' anytime touchdown score is plus 100. On the starting gate, Mike Evans hasn't scored in 3 consecutive games, longest stretch of his season. Mike Evans, the season he had is probably to some degree underappreciated here. I mean, synced up with Baker Mayfield in a way that's going to get both of these guys paid a ton of money this offseason. Really, Mike Evans is, I don't know if it's like, he is a Bucs legend, truly one of the all-time greats of that franchise, a Super Bowl winner and their top wideout. And I think you'll see that again here today in a step-up spot. I think over every number for Mike Evans, whether it's the long reception, which I'm playing at 26.5, 72.5 yards, 4.5 catches, but I really like his touchdown here. Number 1 wideouts have 8 of the last 10 have caught a touchdown, more than 10 total touchdowns. Wouldn't surprise me if Mike Evans grabbed 2. Give me Isaiah Pacheco over 83.5 rushing plus receiving. I'm playing the 18.5 receiving as well, but do feel a bit safer on his 83.5 rushing plus receiving. He's hit this in 5 out of 6 games, and in some of those games, the receiving hasn't actually even factored in. The Chiefs do love to use him on the ground, and Buffalo has had some struggles this year against the running back position. And then a buy low spot, a guy that you're definitely on, but just haven't bet it yet, if I had to imagine, is Dawson Knox over 11.5 receiving yards. Dawson Knox first 3 games back from injury, 3 catches for 36 yards, 3 targets, 2 catches for 26 yards, 2 targets, and 2 catches for 22 yards and 3 targets. So you go into the game against Pittsburgh, he gets 2 targets, which is about the floor, but only caught the 1 touchdown pass there for 9 yards. but we get an 11.5. I basically view that as if he had been able to secure his other target, today's prop today, 17.5, 18.5. He had 20+ in 3 straight games from returning from injury today. I can get Knox today to catch 2 passes, which is about plus 106. I think that works out, but he also could certainly hit this on just one catch.
Absolutely. Did it against Miami as well. That he came back, and again, we talk about big ball games. The security blanket for Josh Allen is Dawson Knox. It's not so much Kincaid. Kincaid, he looks to take a deep shot with in crunches in terms of third down situations, red zone opportunities. It is Dawson Knox, Donnie.
Yeah, and also take a look at the Isaiah Pacheco over 83.5 rushing and receiving yards. These are the games that you want him for, right? These are the games that you save your running back for. And also, I know you like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but in that secondary role, if Isaiah Pacheco comes away in this football game and only has 11 carries, that means Kansas City probably got beat up really bad in this game, and I don't see that being the case. If I think it's lower scoring, like under 45.5, Pacheco's going to be a big part of that. Why? Because he's going to be grinding the clock and getting first downs.
Yeah, I expect a ton of Pacheco. Hopefully not too much. I want this game to go over. I would like to watch Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes play the game that we're supposed to get out of them.
3 touchdowns.
And this game, you have exactly 45 points according to Donnie. We'll do the whip around next.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices. We're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now he's all a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
This is one of the hardest jobs in all of football. You are replacing Bear Bryant. You are replacing Nick Saban. You are replacing guys who won national championships, and they still wanted him out. They still wanted him gone.
Mike Schuler.
Mike Schuler was a disaster. Dubos was a disaster.
Gene Stallings.
That's what I mean. They ran him out. He won a national championship, and they ran Gene Stallings out.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Good move by the Clippers, and obviously, folks, they have Tyronn Lue, who I think is one of the best coaches in the league. And I'll say this right now, folks, the way they're playing, I know Minnesota's in first. I know Oklahoma City's been great. I know Denver's been fantastic. But the team I'm thinking right now that could actually come out of the West, if they stay healthy, and he keeps playing like that, it's Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Last year, the Purdue Boilermakers upset by the 16 seed Fairleigh Dickinson. Is history going to repeat itself?
Purdue is capable of winning 6 games in the NCAA tournament, but the fact is, until Purdue proves that it's capable of not just advancing, but advancing far in the bracket in March, this is going to be the storyline, and I've said that to you throughout the offseason.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
I am not a Cowboys fan. I did not have a Cowboys ticket on this game. I bet the over, but I'm frustrated watching this game. I'm frustrated seeing the Dallas Cowboys think that this is their optimal game plan.
In-game live, prime time. Only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live on SportsGrid, Pro Football Today. Joe Lisi, Donnie Rightside. I'm Kevin Walsh with you here as we get set for the divisional round to come to a close. You got to enjoy it, folks. I mean,
yes.
Sooner or later, DRS is
going to be a lot of killing time. You know what I mean?
DRS is going to have his weekends back unless.
Whoa. Yeah.
Unless.
Maybe like
UFL?
Soccer or potential maybe basketball type.
Oh, it's true. Two big basketball guys.
Who?
Both
March Madness. March Madness.
Is it true, Donnie, the college basketball season is going to be starting in a couple weeks?
Yes. That's when Donnie dives in.
Does UConn. Let's go. Just rinse and repeat.
How about that Baylor team losing in Austin yesterday?
At the gun.
Yeah, covered at 2.5, though.
That's greatness.
Wasn't the opening line.
But line worked against you. Wraparound spot. All
Lost
good.
2 heartbreakers. Texas and K-State in 1 week. Can't happen.
Did you alt them? Did you alt Baylor?
You just kept going to betting on Baylor, Good to know you have your teams in college basketball, too. Lions lay 6.5. 49.5 is the listed total for this game. Let's talk side or total here. What do you look for?
I lean to Detroit in this matchup. I think they're a little bit more physical in terms of the offensive line. I think they will be able to run it a little bit better with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. So that's why I lean to the Lions in regards to the spread perspective. But I'm expecting points in this ballgame. We talk about 2 suspect secondaries. We talk about Detroit being abused by Nick Mullins in Minnesota, 400-plus yards. You have a hot quarterback in Baker Mayfield over the last 5 weeks, guys, averaging 289 passing yards per game, 11 touchdowns. This team in Tampa Bay has won 6 of the last 7. So I'm expecting, full pedal to the metal here. The playmakers to step up. Evans, Godwin, Baker Mayfield, and on the Detroit side as well, St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs as it relates to the passing attack. So I like Detroit from the spread perspective, but I love the over 49.5 in this ballgame, Donnie.
I'm interested to see where this line actually closes at, because just taking a look across the board, some outlets 6.5, but the majority now down to 6 even. I want to see where that goes from 3 o'clock, but I have a tendency that obviously we're not going to see 7 anymore, and maybe we even see a buyback even down to 5.5. The total also interesting, that 48.5 up to 49.5, as we talked about earlier. But for me, this is a tough one. Like, if I'm a teaser player, which I'm really not, I love Detroit. I love Detroit winning this football game, but I think we're all saying if there's points going to be available, when Detroit is looking to shut down a 10-point lead, right? Let's just say 5 minutes to go. There's no faith there. Baker Mayfield's probably going to Swiss cheese them, take 3 or 4 minutes off the clock, and get that touchdown. I don't want to be left handing the bag there. But at the same time, I'm trying to say, you know what? I don't know if I want to take Tampa Bay here. It's a tough call. Teaser for me. I think Detroit wins that game. If you had to pin me down on the side, if I think Detroit wins, I think Detroit gets the win and cover them.
For me, I'm actually, again, I'm not. I don't know if I'll be on the 49.5 under, but that is the direction I lead. But I'm rooting for you. I know you've been keen this for a while. But one of the things that stood out to me is that this total when these teams initially met was 42.5. Different conditions, but a touchdown difference from when these teams first met. And I know you like to use that to say, see, what do they know? Total should be 57.5. But it just feels like an overreaction of what if it's all perfect, but what if it's all not? And I think that I have my hesitations on this number in a game between Goff and Baker.
No, you bring up a great point. I mean, it can trend to the under. I just go in terms of where these offenses are right here. And the identity of Tampa Bay over the second half of the season hasn't been the rushing attack with Rachaad White. It has been the passing attack. And think about some of the teams that they played down the stretch. You go to the ball game in Lambeau Field, 34 points on the road. They push tempo. If they push tempo in this ball game against Jared Goff, I think he's going to match them. And again, it's going to be last man standing, in my opinion. I talked about the game against C.J. Stroud where they put up 39 points, 37 points. It was 39-37. I think it resembles that type of ball game. I don't think we have a situation where you saw last week where the second half they got tight because McVay wanted to potentially try and run the football with Kyren Williams, and Jared Goff and that offense played down in terms of the L.A. defense. I don't think that's the situation here. I think Detroit has the superior offense right now, They push Baker, and Baker matches them. I think it's just a shootout, guys.
I'm interested to see also if you take a look at like Sam Laporta in the red zone again, those limited packages. I think he's going to be available anytime touchdown market makes some sense for him. He's at a plus 140. But this is one of those weeks where you lean on a number one wide receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown. I can't get back to this point enough. Todd Bowles is going to be a defensive coordinator that is going to bring – he's not going to sit back and say, they carved us up, and I didn't want to bring any pressure because I was worried about it. They're going to bring full-on heat, which can be boom or bust. And if you're leaving some of those wide receivers, Joe talked about like a Jamison Williams, one-on-one downfield, good night. You're going to get housed in this one. I do think you get a pretty big performance here at Amon-Ra St. Brown, anytime touchdown market plus 100.
I am tempted by
this is weak.
some of the Amon-Ra plus Mike Evans specials. I do need St. Brown for 33 more postseason yards, which, again, all of these now, I'm just –
got a 90 number today.
I'm not really stressing it, but it just has – I just need to make sure it gets in because the Lamar thing was such a nightmare to watch yesterday that I just want to make sure the St. Brown thing gets to where it needs to go. I'm locked in on Jahmyr Gibbs in this game. We'll do that when we get to the best bet segment. I mentioned Mike Evans over the 26.5 long reception and his anytime touchdown score. Let's get over to Chiefs-Bills. Invested in this game from the preseason, 9-1 on the Buffalo Bills to win the Super Bowl. This feels the more daunting task to me. I know that that's ridiculous. They're laying 2.5 here. They would be catching 3 next week against the Ravens. That's just how I match up these teams today. I will be rooting in Buffalo, but I'm playing over 45.5. I'm playing it confidently. First meeting, this total was listed at 49.5. It's a 4-point drop here, despite the fact that I know they only scored 37 in that first meeting. Countless points were left on the board. Every turnover was beneficial towards the under. When there are turnovers today, perhaps they can help out the over here and not be as costly as they were last time. I'm on the over, Bills Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm on the under, and it's only because of and I lean to the under. Don't love it in any capacity, but it is because of how both teams want to potentially run the football. We talked about Kansas City, 4.3 yards per rush last week. They stayed in manageable situations with Pat Mahomes. Now, granted, that was at home. This is going to be on the road. But what is the identity of the Buffalo Bills? Basically, over the last, 7 or 8 games, it's been the rushing attack. James Cook, but more importantly, Josh Allen. Last 7 games on the ground, 48.1 yards per game for Josh Allen. The RPO game, I think, is a critical factor. If they can open up and put pressure on Kansas City on the edge, that opens up the play-action passing attack, and I think they sustain drives. But it is very critical for Buffalo to get the football and at least score a touchdown or a field goal to set the tone at home. They didn't do that last year against Cincinnati, fell behind by double digits. It was lights out. I'm going back to the well with Buffalo, laying the 2.5. Like that more than I like the under, Donnie.
Yeah, by the way, Buffalo's really been playing playoff football here for weeks now because every single game they needed to win just to get into the playoffs, which included, taking games for granted, which we all saw that Dolphins game coming from a mile away. Hey, we think they could win the game. Well, they still actually had to win it, and they did win that football game. So when you're pressing it down, last week that Pittsburgh Steelers team, 31-17, they were supposed to probably dispatch them. I thought the Steelers would be a little bit more competitive, and they weren't. But this is just a different animal coming into the game with Andy Reid and also Patrick Mahomes. It just makes me a little bit leery. Like, I know the injury situation, and even though that game last week in cold weather, which Kansas City played well, enough to win 26-7, I just look at those same conditions, say you're banged up so much at linebacker. What's Andy Reid going to be able to dial up in this game? And I know Kevin likes Isaiah Pacheco. I think Travis Kelce's going to have a good performance. Trust me, from a rooting perspective, I really want the Buffalo Bills to win. I don't even have any tickets on the Kansas City Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. I have a couple on the Buffalo Bills. I just need to see this. Instead of for me betting on saying, let's just say the Bills win this game, I would just be taking Josh Allen props in this game. Because I think he has to have a monster performance for them to win this game. And he's very capable of doing that.
He is. One of the prevailing things, again, as we get closer, though, is truly Kansas City. Miami spent the entire year not being able to beat a single good team.
Correct.
That's the only good team Kansas City beat.
Right.
That literally, Buffalo came to their house, Detroit came to their house, Philly came to their house. All of these teams secured victories. The Chiefs went to Green Bay. And that was before people realized the Green Bay full turning of the corner. I know you were on them in the game, but the Chiefs have consistently all year long failed in this spot. The idea that Kansas City is going to win this game is the Chiefs doing something they've not done all season long. What they did last week, that didn't fix anything. That didn't prove anything. it proved everything that Miami was frauds. And that they have a quarterback problem they're going to double down on, which is going to be a disaster for that franchise and eventually will spell Mike McDaniel leaving that team. That's what that was. That was not, Kansas City's fine. Part of the reason that I think you both like the under and why I understand it, Kansas City should have scored 35 in that game. They continue to get in the red zone, and it's just the worst stuff you've ever seen in your life. But it's a game where Andy Reid and Mahomes are at the signals. Like, I get it. The wide receiver room isn't, but the wide receiver room is what it is. We constantly say to ourselves throughout this year, but it's Mahomes and Andy. It's been those two all year long. And I think the world of the both of them. But it has not been enough this year. The Bills lost one game at home all season long. That is not an easy place to go and just eliminate them. And it's not that, Mahomes is finally playing a road playoff game. Could he ever win on the road? It's that finally teams aren't having to go to Arrowhead and have to take a win off of Mahomes on the road.
No, it's that, and that's not the only point as well. You mentioned the road, right? Well, they did lose to Denver on the road, right? They scored 9 points in that ball game.
Yeah.
Right? The inconsistency in road environments, that Green Bay game, this is not the same explosive offense. Again, Tyreek Hill's not a part. They can't just dial it back and say, you know what, Mahomes is good for 3 1/4, Kelsey's good for 8 receptions, 100 yards, and you know what, Rashee Rice every week, even though he's come on, is good for 2 touchdowns if you need it. And that is the question. If the game is on the line, Mahomes and everybody around him haven't been as consistent as they were in years past. And that's where you have to give the edge to the Buffalo Bills because they did play in tough environments. And not only that, look at the last team that they played that was good, right? Dallas supposedly walked in they beat them down 31-3. They boat raced the Dallas Cowboys and the vaunted Micah Parsons defense, and they ran all over them. So that is where I give the edge to the Buffalo Bills. But again, it comes down to this. Watching this ball game, Donnie, I'm telling you this right now. If I'm McDermott, forget the deference. I want the football. I want to set the tone. I want to do exactly what Green Bay did in the road in that ball game last night.
That's what you got to be. You got to stay aggressive here. You got to get the lead on the Kansas City Chiefs and put the pressure on them because say what you want, like home field advantage, right? Okay, you're on the road and the crowd, but no, there is a distinct advantage on first, second, and third down in the playoffs from your crowd here, interrupting those signals, which Kansas City always had the ability to do. So now when you take a look at that Kansas City defense, why are they so good at times here? Well, if you have to run all the way down 3-2-1 when the snap is coming, you get to jump off the football. They're not going to get that in this game, which again plays into we should be able to pick up first downs. I just don't know if the explosive plays are going to be enough in this football game where it goes up and down the field. I look for measured drives here. Hopefully the Buffalo Bills win as I'm rooting for it, but I do think, again, if I'm standing on business, it's the under 45.5.
By the way, Joe's point of the home road splits, Mahomes this season at home, 17 touchdowns, 6 picks. On the road, 10 touchdowns, 8 picks. That's a massive, massive difference. And, again, it makes for a really interesting spot here where Buffalo has the opportunity to just stand on business and protect their home field, which is all they need to do. Best bets is all we need to do for you next right here as we close out Pro Football Today.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices. And we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division.
I don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
This is one of the hardest jobs in all of football. You are replacing Bear Bryant. You are replacing Nick Saban. You are replacing guys who won national championships, and they still wanted him out. They still wanted him gone.
Mike Schuler.
Mike Schuler was a disaster. Dubos was a disaster.
Gene Stallings.
That's what I mean. They ran him out. He won a national championship, and they ran Gene Stallings out.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Good move by the Clippers, and obviously, folks, they have Tyronn Lue, who I think is one of the best coaches in the league. And I'll say this right now, folks, the way they're playing, I know Minnesota's in first. I know Oklahoma City's been great. I know Denver's been fantastic. But the team I'm thinking right now that could actually come out of the West, if they stay healthy, and he keeps playing like that, it's Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Last year, the Purdue Boilermakers upset by the 16 seed Fairleigh Dickinson. Is history going to repeat itself?
Purdue is capable of winning 6 games in the NCAA tournament, but the fact is, until Purdue proves that it's capable of not just advancing, but advancing far in the bracket in March, this is going to be the storyline, and I've said that to you throughout the offseason.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
I am not a Cowboys fan. I did not have a Cowboys ticket on this game. I bet the over, but I'm frustrated watching this game. I'm frustrated seeing the Dallas Cowboys think that this is their optimal game plan.
In-game live, prime time. Only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, the only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Best bet time here, Pro Football Today. We close out the divisional round now. New rule implemented, no more helmets. Because
smashed it.
An injury.
We're playing today also. We turned the injuries off for today, by the way, so we're all safe. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're all safe now?
Turned them off.
Okay, so yours, now, it's interesting, though, but yours depends on where you bet it, on if it's a winner or a void. Like, that's how, the best bet.
What?
Some people gave back the bets. Like, you might have not lost yesterday, depending on where you got involved.
That's correct.
So I won yesterday. Do you guys, yesterday, Donnie went first, then to Joe, then to me. Do you want me to lead? How do you feel about it? I know you need a good.
When I have the over, I like to.
You like
go
the.
for it. Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
So I'm going to start. I already tweaked it out. We talked about Baker Mayfield being a hot quarterback over the last 5 weeks, averaged 289 passing yards per game. He's got a 262 total today. Jared Goff 277. Give me the party over, Sammy boy. 50+ in this ball game. Tampa Bay, Detroit. Over.
Correlations here. I love that, so I'm going to go right with a quarterback here. I already like Jared Goff coming into this game, but I figure if you are going to score touchdowns and if you are getting beat down, which maybe Tampa Bay is, we're going to need a lot of touchdowns out of Baker Mayfield today. My best bet is Baker Mayfield over 1.5 touchdown passes. Cheap price there at -106. I just don't see it as them getting in the red zone and handing it off, Kevin. We're going touchdown, but through the air.
Also in this game today, which Jameer Gibbs' longest rush over 14.5 yards. Gibbs has not missed this three straight times. He's currently missed it 2 consecutive. He breaks that today. Also in games with 10 or more carries, he's 9-1 on this prop. His attempts prop tonight, 10.5 with juice towards the over. Since we all went to that game, if you had to, a favorite bet from Chiefs-Bills.
Mecole Hardman over the 17.5 receiving today, 8-1 anytime touchdown.
Kelsey over 60.5 receiving yards.
Over 45.5.
Oh, that wasn't.
What do you mean? I think we all agree about it. These guys love points today. They love. In fact, they might like the under in the first game all of a sudden. Oh, things are changing. Don't do that. Very disrespect. Pro Football Today. Conference Championship Sunday. We'll see you then.